time for FYI, and a pleasure to have in studio with me Superintendent of Schools for Clinton, Wes Goldman. Here it is, Wes. You are preparing for your first year as superintendent, and so many students, teachers also getting ready for the start of another school year.
Yeah, the anticipation is always great this time of year. You know, people have had the opportunity to rejuvenate, if you will, and head into a new season. You know, our team has done a tremendous amount of work over the summer, whether it's custodians preparing buildings, you know, food service workers, preparing meals for kids over the summer, IT folks, rebuilding computers and getting them ready for the students and the teachers, you name it. Transportation folks are out there still taking kids to activities and doing all that stuff and working on the fleet to ensure that kids will get safely to where they're headed. You know, new teachers started yesterday. That's always a fun time to see, you know, the anticipation and excitement in their eyes. So they'll be here for the next couple of days, you know, in servicing. And then next Tuesday, all teachers start. And next Friday, here we go. Kids are back.
So now next Tuesday, you get the opportunity to address all of the staff. What's that like?
Yeah. What it really is an opportunity, especially this time, is for me to introduce myself to those who don't know me. Most people know me now, but there'll be some folks who don't. It gives me a chance to kind of share some unique things about me that they might know. It helps build relationships, and that's what this is all about, is building relationships. It also gives me an opportunity to share with the team the vision and how we're going to try to attain that vision.
You have sat in on a number of these, first as a teacher and now, of course, in an administrative role. Is there a Q&A time period in what you do?
I think it's happened, but not on purpose. People are like, what are you talking about here? There has been moments in that, but that's a great idea. I might have to, although I have to be mindful.
Yes.
What kind of questions you can ask me?
Yeah. No. So what is that day? How does that day play out? I mean, on next Tuesday, what's the agenda there?
Yeah, so what we try to do is celebrate some of the great things that have happened so far, just even before the year starts. So we like to celebrate those folks who have been in the district, so they get an award for 5 years of service, or 10, 15, 25. You know, we go on all the way up, and most people around here know Jenny Mann.
Yes.
And she's, I think this is her 60th year in the district. So like we try to provide a gift of some sort of memento of their service. It's like, after that, what else do we get? You know, it's like, okay, you get a house. No, we're not getting a house. But somebody like Jenny has been such an amazing cornerstone of our district. And, she's been around a long time. And
she was there when I was in high school.
And she's just, been such an impact to so many people. I don't know when someday when she decides to hang it all up, there's a vacuum of knowledge and experience there. But then we'll also celebrate those folks, all folks who have had perfect attendance. You know, that's one of our central goals, is to really improve attendance of not only staff, but surely for students, especially considering the new law for chronic absenteeism. We really have to focus on that. So we want to celebrate those people who show up to work and those kids who show up.
And the start of the year, I would imagine the preparations for each grade level, each building is a little bit different.
Yeah. So, my history as a science teacher, I'm always trying to figure out new ways to teach and engage students. I know elementary teachers, they spend a tremendous amount of time, even in the summer, going into their classrooms, setting it up so that, it takes time. You don't really realize, and you really look at your rosters and see, okay, what kind of students will I have, and how can I best prepare my classroom to engage those students, especially at the elementary level. Middle school and high school teachers generally are more content experts, if you will, but they're working on curriculum, as all teachers are. They're rewriting tests. They're looking at, more engaging ways to do business. In fact, I think we've got some math folks today who are spending the whole day writing curriculum and making sure that they're prepared for our students. So yeah, it's a never-ending process.
The interesting aspect also, you bring up the elementary, and they're teaching the younger students, and they're engaging them in studies for the first time and trying to lay the groundwork how things will play out when they get to middle school and high school.
Yeah, elementary. That's a grade level that I was not very comfortable with, even in my past positions, those kids, what's so fun about them is they're there and they want to learn and they want to, build relationships. They're so excited and they're curious and they're not afraid to take chances, and then we see that kind of flip as kids get older, because of social pressures and so on. But yeah, it's interesting watching and engaging elementary teachers, because they are so passionate about getting kids that foundational knowledge and skill, and they are just so amazing at it. My sister is a first grade teacher at Eagle Heights, and I once subbed in a first grade classroom in the last year or two, and I'm like, holy cow, what they have to do in a day is incredible, and the management of everything. It's just, I was a physics teacher. Okay, I'm teaching physics, but they're teaching ELA, language arts, they're teaching math, they're teaching science, they're teaching social, and they're teaching them how to behave and engage in a social way that is appropriate. It's incredible.
You bring up a very, very good point, because on the lower levels, they're teaching every subject.
Yeah.
And as you point out, when you get to the middle school and the high school, all of a sudden you're just concentrating on your subject.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how elementary teachers do it. I really don't. I'm so blown away by their ability to, I call it origami the day, fold it together so that it looks like something, pleasant. And they do such an amazing job. And I do, and I'm not just saying this because I'm biased, which I am. We have such amazing teachers, and elementary teachers in particular. They're incredible. And yeah, as a high school teacher, it was easy for me because I get to teach physics, and I get to teach physics. It's a little bit different these days. You still have high school teachers who might teach 4 or 5 different classes, and that's a little bit more like elementary. But you don't, they each have their unique, if I'm an elementary teacher, I've got the same 24 kids all day long. And that's a positive, but it can also be a challenge, right? Where if I had, 120 kids in a day, I'm only having 25 kids an hour. And if you got a bad class, you get a new class the next hour. But at elementary, if you got a great class, you get them all day. No, they all have their strengths in what they do, and they all have their challenges, but it's fun.
Talking with Wes Golden. Before we take a break for the weather, let's get to one of your talking points, work-based learning. Talk about that.
Yeah, so as I've shared, you probably even here, but in one of the visions that I have for our district is we're seeing the need to really, when you and I were in school, we're learning language, math, science, social studies, which we still do that. But how do we give students more authentic learning opportunities that will prepare them and expose them to potential careers in their future? We've as an administrative team, we developed a vision which is empowering all to be future ready. The catchword and phrase that we've heard for the last 20, 30 years is we want students to be college and career ready. We're seeing nationally that a lot of kids aren't going to college anymore. They're seeing the value of going directly into the workforce, the military, or trade tech school and go in. So how do we best prepare every student for their future? If that's going to college, hey, how do we get them that track? How do we give them that pathway? If a student wants to go in to be a mechanic, how do we give them all of those learning opportunities, but also those authentic learning opportunities, so that they can learn what it's like to be in a mechanic shop working on those things. Now, we have all those options, and that's the beautiful thing about the Clinton Community School District is we have so much opportunity. But now let's integrate even more authentic learning with business partners and industries and so on. So that's really a passion of mine.
You're almost kind of seeing it as well on the college level with Clinton Community College, Eastern Iowa Community College, with that career advancement programs they offer.
Exactly, and that's one of those pathways that we've worked with Clinton Community College and Eastern Iowa Community College in developing those specific pathways that are aligned to the needs of the community, so that we are preparing our students to go immediately into the workforce with a certification, or with that apprenticeship certification, or with, exposure to that company, that industry, because it's a win-win for all of us. It's a win-win for that student to be exposed to the real world, quote unquote. I always say, they have street cred, right? They have the industries and businesses, they have street credibility. I, as a teacher, can say, hey kids, this is what you're going to have to do. And they're like, yeah, Mr. Golden, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. But those folks in the businesses and industries, they know what they're talking about. They live it every day. And when they have that influence over a learner to say, this is how we do this in the banking industry, this is how we do this at one of our local industries, it's like their eyes open, say, yeah, I probably should listen a little more closely.
Another aspect of that, when I was at Clinton High School, you had the shops.
Yep.
And, the building trades and things like that. But now there's culinary.
Yep.
I mean, it's a wide variety now, more so.
Yeah. I mean, from the spectrum of computer science to education to culinary arts to building trades to welding to, you name it. We have very specific pathways for students that are aligned with the needs of the community. We have an outstanding culinary arts program. All of our CTE programs are top notch, and it's really good that we get to now partner with CCC and then get students to that next level. I'll just use my own personal experience, not mine, but my daughter's. My oldest daughter graduated from Clinton High School with 30 college credits already. It allowed her, and I blame Clinton High School, it allowed her to graduate from college in 3.5 years. I didn't graduate in 3.5 years. It took me longer than that. But that was such an amazing and important part of her college career, was starting that pathway at Clinton High School.
Well said. Let's take a break for the weather. It is brought to you by Prairie Lumber.
A Storm Track 8 weather impact alert day continues as we track heavy rain this morning, followed by severe storms possible later this evening. Those storms will likely be arriving as we approach sunset. Large hail damaging winds and an isolated tornado. Highs today much warmer and more humid. Will be in the mid-80s. With your Storm Track 8 weather impact forecast, I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzky.
Light rain continuing, 70 degrees. Our update brought to you by Prairie Lumber.
Let your new kitchen or bath tell a story and be an inspiration for years to come with craft-made cabinets from Prairie Lumber in Fulton. Craft-made Cabinetry offers a multitude of customizable options for your project. Create your dream kitchen or bath today with the help of craft-made cabinets. Stop by Prairie Lumber at 912 2nd Street in Fulton and make your dream kitchen or bath a reality.
FYI, continuing, well, we've touched on a lot of things. I know Wes was a coach and an athlete at Clinton High School. Before we talk to you again, the Athletic Hall of Fame will be admitting some new members. It is going to be a special day. Randy Teemer, you probably...
Oh, yeah.
Did you teach alongside Randy at all, or no?
I think he had left... No, I think we did for a few years, but he was certainly a teacher there when I went to Clinton High. I think he was there for a few years before he headed down to PV. Yeah.
And then, of course, also going in, cross country, and it was so hard. I'm on the committee because we had such great cross country over a decade or better.
Better, yeah.
And... so they picked the 82 and 83 squads.
Yeah, those are pretty good teams, I was a cross-country coach and runner, as many know, and I got to, as an athlete, experience the back end of that. So my freshman year, we had won state as a team. I wasn't on that team particularly, but my junior year, I was on the team that we had gotten second, and I still believe to this day we could have won it, even though we didn't have our number one runner on that day at the state meet. Bill Sattler. Bill Sattler didn't run.
Yes.
So we had still gotten second, barely without him, and we still thought we could have won. So I'm sorry, I've digressed. I'm reminiscing about my high school athletic career, but some of those teams, when you've got Jeff Jacobs, holy cow, there's a legend. And Clinton High School cross country from basically the mid 70s to the late 80s was a dominating force. There's a lot of teams there that deserve, but no more than those two. They deserve it.
Even going back to the late 60s when it was in cross country, they called it the mile run.
Or fall track, yeah.
And then, of course, you had Chuck Curtis, Fred Schaefer, Dave Cruz.
Who are all in for other, for track and stuff, yeah.
Exactly. You, of course, coached cross country.
Yeah.
We've had outstanding
Yeah.
coaches in that sport. Bill Holsclaw certainly,
Yeah,
and then Greg Dennis.
Yeah. No, Bill Holsclaw was my coach, and then when he retired, Greg Dennis took over. So I was in high school during that transition. I owe a lot to both of those guys because they really believed in us. They held us to very high expectations. We were very competitive, and there were a lot of guys on those teams who were outstanding. And we've talked about, there were outstanding runners who just didn't make the team, who would have been, or they were on the team, but they weren't running in the race for varsity that day. I remember in high school, my junior year, we had won conference, the cross country meet, and Greg Dennis was the coach at that time, and he didn't know we had 10 runners who could all run under like 17:20. And he didn't know who he wanted to run in the 7, and he just pointed to us when we got off the bus. That's how we knew we were running. Now, obviously, a Bill Sattler and an Albert Hayton were going to be running, but there were some guys who normally had run varsity that day. They didn't get selected as they walked off the bus, and that's a great problem to have, but it's also a bit of a challenge.
Yeah,
so.
that would have to be so tough. That would be so tough.
Yeah, we had at that day, I think we had 4 guys in the all conference, and Bill Sattler had won. I think Randy Wilden was 4th, and I was 11th. We had Steve Ernst was like 8th or 9th. But it's fun when you have teams like that because it's fun to do that.
And this Athletic Hall of Fame is going to be on a special day because we're going to commemorate one of the outstanding Clinton High School athletes. Went on to the University of Iowa, the NFL.
Yeah.
Did great things outside of the realm of sports. I'm speaking, of course, of Duke Slater.
Absolutely. If there's not a role model more important than him in this community, we've had a lot. But he's in that Mount Rushmore of Clintonians, I would say. There's many, but wow, to be as dominating of an athlete that he was, and go on and do some of the things that he had done to break barriers. I mean, if you think about, at that time, how hard it would have been to make the NFL and being a person of color and then to get there and be revered and feared. I mean, truly, and then go on to Iowa. There were things, and what I really appreciate about the committee is doing this and the community embracing this is I don't think many people knew about him forever, that he was just overlooked. Most people, and even I, as a kid who went to Clinton High School, and I was thinking I was going to go to the University of Iowa, and so I went out to Iowa and walked around and visited one of my friends who was older than me. He was actually a guy I ran with in cross country, and he's one of the guys who didn't get selected when we walked off the bus that day at the conference meet. He lived in Slater Hall.
Yeah.
And I had no clue that Slater Hall was named after Duke Slater, a Clintonian, And as you start digging into, his past, it blows your mind. But then, after his, career is over as a football player, to go on and do the things that he did in the judicial system. Yeah. I mean, he's the only person right now that I'm aware of that is in the Athletic Hall of Fame and the Hall of Honor.
And also we should mention Greg Lottehoff and Phil Callahan also going in, great individual athletes as well in wrestling for Phil, and of course golf for Greg.
What's amazing about if anybody ever gets a chance to go over to the Clinton High Athletic Hall of Fame to see the diversity of athletes, not only in demographics but just in the sports, it just shows how dominant and impressive Clinton High School athletics have been, throughout its history, be it golf, be it swimming. And you look at some of the history of swimming, cross country, but there's been football championships and recently bowling championships. Yeah. You name it, from gymnastics to basketball. I mean, it's not like Clinton has always just owned one sport. They've been, competitive and up there with the state and across the board. And that's what's cool about it. Again,
visiting with Wes Kelton. While we're talking about athletics, let's talk a little bit about sharing programs. That has got to be a tough decision because you're not only dealing with the student who wants the opportunity to participate in a sport that may be not offered at his school, but you've got the athletes at Clinton High School saying, hey, you may be taking some of my time.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, and those who've kind of followed this story, the board, the Clinton board, has approved that sharing agreement. I know it's controversial, and I'll only touch on this a little bit. I know recent history, there's been some challenges, whether it's state, legislation or just decisions made by parents and so on. But ultimately, for me, it's about kids. And as a coach or an athlete, I take kids. I'm here for kids, and we're of course, we want Clinton kids to be in there, and they are. But I look at it as, hey, a little competition, it breeds excellence. And it's just also, I look at it as in terms of, hey, if there's a school out there that doesn't have that program, and we do, I just don't want to deny it. That's one of my, I want to remove barriers from kids being able to contribute and participate.
You talked about, I believe in the article, it talked a little bit about with the open enrollment, if they come to Clinton High School, see what is offered here at the school, they may open enroll to Clinton.
And it's happened. It does happen. So, and who better to market the school and the teams that participate than the Clinton kids. And it does and has inspired some to come to Clinton, which is a great thing.
All right. Appreciate your time, as always. Again, getting ready for the start of the school year. You got to be excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for kids getting back into school. I'm excited for teachers and the anticipation that they have to, be an important, part of kids' lives. So it's a great time of the year, and I'm just humbled to be a part of it.
And I would imagine, as superintendent, you get out of the administrative building every once in a while and visit the various schools.
Absolutely. I was taught I like to get out of the house, so I would rather be out and about and engage people than anything. Sometimes you get locked in there for various reasons, but any chance I get, I love to be. That's the only thing about being an administrator that's challenging is you're a little further away from kids. So anytime you get a chance to be in the hallways or in a classroom where kids are at, it's wonderful.
Wes, thank you so much.
Thank you.